Hi, I'm so glad you're here. Whoops, I think there was a glitch, so I'm going to say it again. Hi, I am so glad you're here and you're watching this. And it's my hope today in talking about millennials that I reach to the parents, to the teachers, educators, to the bosses, to the friends and family, and present a different kind of perspective about what might be going on with the millennial generation, especially because it's seeded with a frequency of the crystalline energy kits. So, first and foremost, for those of you who I have so many new subscribers. So, briefly, I'm a scholar. I love to learn, I love to explore. And I'm blending this esoteric training I've had from Oxford University and from mystery schools, in addition to my history degree from college, with all of this education and psychology and frequency work, in realizing that um, throughout the decades as I've been involved in providing therapeutic care environments for young adults and teens, that I've watched these um, Gen Xers, millennials, and then into the Z, the Zoomers, change. And so this has been the insight of working with energy, right? It's really interesting how it's hard to talk about this. Really, like what my passion is with it. So I want to start with the solar flares and the millennials, because if you go back, I've done two videos so far: solar flares and boomers, solar flares and Xers. And now I want to talk about the millennials because they're a completely different group, right? So the millennials are born in 1981, and technically through Reuters it says 1996 or the end of the 90s, right? So you'd be 27 at the youngest, to 42, 45 ish, based on these timelines. And millennials are going to be the children of the late stage baby boomers and the early stage Gen Xers. It's really interesting how hard it is to talk. Huh. Okay. This is a generation that has been seeded with the crystalline energy kits. Now, I wrote a book last year, earlier this, or I guess last year in May, um, on the indigo. And I have other books coming: the indigo, the crystal, the rainbow, and the diamond. And if you don't have this, it's a really good primer for where we're going, right? So, seated within the millennials is this crystalline energy, which is vibrational. It's vibrational. It's from Venus. It holds the blue ray, or excuse me, the violet rays and the vibration of love. So it's a very complex, multidimensional frequency. Within this seated crystalline child is a quantum intelligences, multiple intelligences that are so big, so much bigger than we thought. They're very complex, highly sensitive, and purposely out of sync with where we are with our culture, because they're here to pull the culture forward. So purposely out of sync is probably the best way to put it. In even able in having the ability to hold when you're out of sync is really challenging, right? So when you think of millennials, separate from the crystals, it's this also this time when there's an incredible amount of change, because we had parents going back to work. This was the daycare, the caregiver environment. This was the overscheduled kid. This was the blended family. Lots of changes, lots of cultural things happening from the dismantling that the Gen Xers brought ahead of them, right? And so the main thing is to think that they're purposely out of sync and that they're overstimulated and it's not helping. Okay, so we have these two things going right now. So this is a complex, fine-tuned population. It's not linear; it's spiral. It has sensitivities in areas that we didn't know. So I'm looking at things like, they're picking up on everything, right? So I love this priestess card because she talks about they're picking up on the collective, they're picking up on the room, they're picking up on other people, and they're energetically having a reaction to that, right? And the other thing that I wanted to say is that there's sonar. Their sonar in that that vibration of communication and connection is both of these. So when you look at the dolphin, or you look at the whales and the dolphins that are over in here, what you have is this water-based sonar, you know, and it's incredibly challenging. Now, I got an email from a girlfriend of mine who is reading, what's his name? Stephen Herod Booner. I think that's how you pronounce it, Buhner. And he's a phenomenal writer. And she ran across something on whales because she knows that she's helping me with my next book. And she said that dolphins and whales are they leapfrogged over the human communication system in such a phenomenal way, and their languaging is complex and so much larger than ours. And so what I was able to do was download a picture from Booner's work, because he said in 30 minutes of a whale sound, you can expect that as much information as came out of Homer's Odyssey is in there. So, what, 800 pages? And so, this is the picture of what he showed, of just the depth of the complexity of the sound that comes out of a whale sound. And then he went into a dolphin sound, which is very spirally and cyclical, right? And yet complex. Compared to, I wish I had one compared to the humans so that we could really like compare it. But I think at least that the pictures alone are just phenomenal, right? So what we have is this inability to translate or adapt this density of language, this, and so it comes across as kind of spectrumy. It comes across as overwhelmed all the time. And so what we have is a millennial population that is seated in a large enough number that this population kind of shows us that they're struggling with the existing culture, and that they don't really fit in as well as their parents did, or their grandparents did before them. Yet they're our future, and they're taking us forward. So along come these solar flares. Now, Friday we had 4, and we had an X level 2, which means that that's the highest level class that we had, and a 2 level, which I think in January and in February we had a X1 and an X1 plus something, which means that these flares are getting bigger and they're coming more often. So yesterday we had 4, Saturday. Friday we had 4, and one of them was an X. And what's happening is it's activating, it's hitting these complex systems in a really difficult way. Okay, so this sensitive system of this generation, this cohort, has specific issues, and so what you're going to see almost straight across the board with the 40 42-year-olds to 27-year-olds, whether it's yourself, whether it's your child, whether it's your partner, is that you're going to see a lot of stomach, digestion, bowel stuff, because it's internal, and they're holding it, and they're trying to sync and adjust to these flares that are coming from the outside. Anxiety, headaches, uh, uh, every form of overwhelm that you can think, short-tempered, blaming, shaming, like if you would just and sort of wanting to isolate, to pull back and isolate, which is a normal thing for someone who, when they get overwhelmed, especially when they're on that spectrum or they present spectrumy and they're in overstimulation, is that they want to pull back. Now, with Xers or boomers, they get big and they go out and they start holding on to things and changing it. With millennials, they pull in and they hold it inside, which means that their entire digestion tract is going to be aggravated, right? Does this make sense? Okay. So I've worked with this age group since 2007, both as a coach for parents to help them understand. I've worked with clinical teams to explain overwhelm and high levels of sensitivity. And so this has been really fun to sort of bring this together and say, well, what actually happens when there's solar flares? So before I go into tips, just a brief little, this is something that I can support you with if you need any assistance with this. So by all means, drop me a message down below, or go head over to my website, check it out, and drop me a message there. But I would love to hear from you, especially if this is ringing a bell for you. So think of trying diligently to hold this challenging environment, right? And having these flares come up and just sort of rocking you a little bit more and more each time. So, and then when we bring Chiron in it, Chiron doesn't have this one big sign like the Gen Xers did, or one or two like the baby boomers had, Aquarius and Pisces. They go through. I it was like Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and then Libra, all spending a year and a half to 2 years throughout this period of time. But these flares are going to be very individual, and their wounds, or not the flares, the wounds from Chiron are going to be very individual, and the flares are going to bring them up. So what we're seeing is nothing a detectable pattern, just the pattern of isolation and pulling back, and a pattern of being misunderstood or judged from an older generation, and a lack of insight as to their actual assignment or challenges. Okay, so I have 6 tips for those of you who are millennials, those of you who are in partnership with millennials, those who are trying to understand millennials, or those of you who are raising them, right? Number 1 starts with vibration. It is all vibration. What is within? What's without? Where are they dissonant, incongruent, out of alignment? So know what's yours and what isn't. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this and that's going on outside. What we want to do is be able to determine that there are 2 separate things going on. Not all of this is coming in and I don't know what to do, that I'm feeling this and this is out here. So know your own vibration and your own needs. I love this because this is the King of Cups, and the Cups is like, know your heart, trust your gut, quiet your brain and just trust this vibration, and then sort of identify it and use it to hone, right? Number 2, align your vibration with what is in sync with you. So people, places, and things. So if music soothes you down in a rhythm of a beat in the music, quiet you down, then go to that. You see a lot of video games, and because there's a system, there's a challenge that can bring in with yourself on the people, places, and things that your own vibration, keeping in mind that nature can do this very fast for you. And it's the hardest thing to be able to say, I need to turn all this off and go out there, because out there is where the collective, it's where all of this noise is, right? And you're and outside the room, or out with my headphones off, or outside of the security of this little pod of friends that I have, the world's kind of overwhelming for me. So going out there isn't always the easiest thing to do first. However, it is the thing that works the best, right? Is to be able to find a way to quiet the collective noise, right? And then stabilize and go outside, or do something beyond just hiding in your room, or pulling back and getting on your phone or your computer, or zoning out, right? Number 3, isolation, aloneness, and withdrawing is a natural part of stabilizing. It's the way that this vibration has to be able to pull in, recalibrate, and stay, right? So know that what you do to stabilize yourself around other people is super important. So it may mean that you have to push back. It may mean that you have to retreat. I've got a lot of younger kids right now who are just like, I just want to stay in my room. I barely want to go to work. In fact, I really don't even want to go to work. I don't want to socialize. I want to stay back. Now, the important part of knowing that isolation, aloneness, withdrawing is part of this is communicating with the people that you interact with, which is, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm experiencing, and I need to pull back. I need some time, or I'm going to take this. And so what happens is it manages the temper and the outbursts and the overwhelm, which is the HSP stuff, right? Like, how do you know when you're in that and you stop yelling at people because they're aggravating it more, instead of saying, this is what I need? It's really dicey. And so I'm inviting the millennial, the crystal, to stretch out and talk about what's going on, and get out of that reactivity, right? Number 5, be conscious of what foods feed your stability and help you ground. It's food, it's water, it's supplements, it's activity, and you're going to have a digestion system that's really, really, really not doing really well right now because it's all the toxins are going down into the system from the flares, and creating disturbances. So find out what foods make it better. Stick with a lighter diet. Stick with things that really work. Like for me, kitchery seems to be the meal that when my stomach is off, I go to the Indian Ayurvedic kitchery and then put avocados on it and olive oil, and I sort of help things calm it down. Because what I'm doing is I'm choosing to make sure that my body isn't another source of agitation because it's so activated right now. I guess in number 6 here, have compassion for yourself. I think that this is the most challenging role on our planet, is to hold a vibration of the future that's not here yet. A vibration of love, a vibration of community, a vibration of quantum interactions, intelligences, multi-intelligences, multi-dimensions, and to hold it in a planet where everyone goes like, I don't really understand you. I don't like the choices you're making, and we're worried. So have compassion. Have compassion for yourself, that this is the biggest challenge that we've ever faced on our planet, and you get to be one of those who holds it. Have compassion for the son or daughter that you have that is going through this. Have compassion for the employees and go like, how do I make the vibration of this work environment easier for them, because it's already hard, right? So these are the kinds of things that I've been doing, is these videos over and over again. And if the solar flare stuff has been helping, let me know, and I'll keep moving it down. I think I'm going to wrap it up next time with just the youngers, whether it's the Zers or the alphas, knowing that the flares aren't affecting them nearly as impactfully as they have these first 3 that we've talked about: boomers, Xers, and millennials. So drop me a message, and thank you so much for watching, and have a great Sunday and a great week. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.